Hello, everyone. I thought that I would come on here and I would share some insight for those of you who may have been considering one of the Sacred Self Empowered retreats. If you're watching this in April 2024, we do have the Sedona retreat coming up in just a little bit. And I thought, what better way to talk about the retreat than to introduce you to somebody who has been to one of my retreats and just hear firsthand on what you can expect at the Sacred Self Empowered retreats. Every one of them is different, but there's a lot of similarities. So I'm just going to take a second. And Abigail, do you want to introduce yourself? Tell everyone where you are, where you're from, and when you experienced the last Sacred Self Empowered retreat.
My name's Abigail. I'm from Fort St. John, so I'm in northern BC. And me and my mom actually did Jenny's retreat last year around this time. I think it was February. And we did it in La Casa. And at first I wasn't like too sure about it because I'd never done it. My mom was doing it. She wanted me to come. And I was a little bit worried. I was like, Mom, like, am I gonna have anyone my age? But it like doesn't matter because you just like connect with everyone
Oh
and
my
it like
gosh.
doesn't matter the ages. I feel like I connected with everyone there and it's just such a great space. And like if you're thinking about doing it, I think it's a great idea. It like gave me so many tools to work with. It was just I
Oh my
loved it.
gosh. I haven't even asked you any questions. You've
I
already
know.
so much. I love it so much because actually one of you what you just started with, one of the questions that I get asked often is will there be anyone my age there? And I get asked this question by young people, by middle-aged people, by older people. It doesn't matter their age. Everybody is really curious about that. And what I've shared and what you just shared as well is that there's people of all different ages, but none of that matters
Yeah.
when together holding space for one another. We've got the maidens, the mothers, the crones, and everything in between, right?
Mhm.
So when you were talking to your mom about coming, and I love that you did this with your mother. I've worked with a couple different mother daughters at my retreats, and I just think that is so magical. I'm hoping one of these days my mama comes to a retreat with me, and of course, I'm going to bring my daughter when she's a little bit older, or even soon, actually. But what if you can think back to before you came to the retreat? What was it that made you decide that yes, this is something that I want to do and this is something I'm going to do?
Well, my mom had found you on TikTok,
Mhm.
and she was talking about how she was going, and I hadn't seen her in a while, and I'd always been a little bit like into this sort of stuff, and I've never like explored it. I never had explored it very much, and my mom was like, "You should just come," and I was kind of like, it just felt right, and I was like it was kind of like I didn't really think about it. I was just like, okay, sure, it feels right. I'll do it. And yeah, and then I started watching your TikToks and then I got so excited to come.
Awesome. I love that so much. Okay, so I know it's been a little bit for you, but if you can remember back to the retreat, we do so many different practices, so many different rituals, ceremonies, circles, things like that. Can you remember what was your favorite practice or part of the retreat?
I loved at the end, we'd all pick out of a basket and we pick a word and we would all um, just say like what how we resonated with it. And I remember I was so nervous when I was first doing it because I was like 18 and everyone else, I just felt like so little. And I didn't really talk at the start. Like I would say like a few things and it was so hard. I was listening to everyone connect everything. And it was just like, it was so nice to hear what they had to say and their different perspectives. And then I found like at the end, they started to talk a little bit more. And it was just, that was my favorite part was just like watching everyone like come out of their shells while doing it and like starting to share more and like that was probably my favorite part. It was our
That's
talking circles at the end.
my own little homemade oracle cards
Yes,
that I
that was
bring to every retreat. So yes, I will be bringing that to Sedona. That's my version of a talking stick. I put my little oracle words into a basket, and if you have the basket, it's your turn to start. I love that. I love that so much. And if you can think, this is a very similar but different question. What surprised you the most of everything you experienced from the retreat?
pendulum work. I never even like saw one, knew what it was, and then when she pulled them out, I was like, "What is this?" And then she was talking, like Jenny started talking about communicating with your guides, and I was like, "What? What is all this stuff?" And I use my pendulum all the time now. Like I have a few. I love using it. It's just a great way to connect with your guides. And I'm so happy that I got that tool from coming to the retreat, because it's definitely a good one to have.
Wow, I love that so much. There was somebody else who shared her feedback from the retreat, and she said something very similar, like that her gifts had activated at the retreat, which is a common experience. I've experienced that every time I've been to a retreat, and I've had a lot of feedback about that. And this is the thing, like we all have these gifts, and they're all slightly different and unique, but we all have the ability to use these gifts and these tools. So for those of you who are considering coming to the Sedona retreat, yes, you will be learning how to use pendulums as well. And then two more questions. So the last two in this one are very similar but very different, and I think that you'll have a different answer for this as well. If you think back to everything you experienced, all of the healing, all of the releasing, all of the integrating, all of the activating, what would you say is your biggest takeaway from attending the retreat?
Forgiveness. The 40-day forgiveness prayer, everything that we like looked at and dove into, all of our wounds and everything, it all comes down to forgiveness. And it's really hard thing to do, but that is my like, I never had like the outlook that was like forgiving people can help you, and like having that, and like learning about like how powerful forgiving someone can be just for yourself, and like letting go is crazy. And that was definitely my biggest takeaway, because I never chose to forgive people that I should have. And that just makes you feel so much better.
I love this so much. Forgiveness really sets us free. And, you know, we can only get so far in our journey if we're hanging out in the energy of resent. And if we're not forgiving someone, then that does mean we're going to hang out in the energy of resent. So I love that you brought that up. I think anybody watching, whether you ever, ever come to one of my retreats or not, please take that away with you. Forgiveness
Yes,
sets us free. It sets
forgiveness.
us. And I'll share that 40-day forgiveness prayer I share with all my clients. I learned it from one of my longest mentors that I've ever worked with. And she's going to make a little surprise visit as well at some of my retreats. So you might just meet her. And then my final question. Okay. So going to a retreat is a big decision. It's a big investment. It is something that sometimes people are on the fence about. They really want to do it. But as you and I both know, because we work together, we all have an ego, and our ego can absolutely throw all sorts of reasons why we shouldn't do it. We're not good enough. We're not worthy of spending the money on. We're not worthy of taking the time off work. I just looked up because I just saw a great big bird. I think it was a hawk. Go Bobby. And of course, that was my favorite part of the retreat, actually, was seeing the eagles at the very end. That was my absolute favorite part of the retreat that you attended, Abigail. So for those who are on the fence, they're thinking about joining a Sacred Self-Empowered retreat, but they haven't quite energetically committed yet. Is there anything that you would say to them, any words of wisdom that you might be able to lend?
I would say look at it as like an investment into yourself. It's not like a retreat, like a spa day. You do digging and you learn so many skills. It's kind of like a course. Like you're going and you're learning so many tools to help yourself. I think that it says retreat, but you do so much work on yourself and you come out feeling so much better, that I think it's like 100% worth it. Like I don't know. It was a great experience, and I'm really glad that I did it. And I think that like it just helps you build yourself as a person, and it helps you forgive, and you just learn so much about yourself in that few days, and so much about other people. It's so rewarding at the end. And you make so many great connections. I absolutely love everyone that was at the retreat. I still like talk to them. They're all great.
That,
It's
especially
just
as we were talking about earlier, everybody's a different age group, but it doesn't
Mhm.
matter. We're soul sisters. We're reconnecting at these retreats. And Abigail, I'm so grateful for you to share your experience more than a year later, like to hear you say all these beautiful words about your experience. And it's been such a long time.
Mhm.
You're not right in the thick of it. You're not on the emotional high from just experiencing it recently, but for you to still have these tools that you've taken away from the retreat over a year later, that just fills my heart so much, because my intention is to create an impact. And if you are still feeling this way more than a year later, that tells me that I have I've done exactly what I intended to do. So thank you so much. Any last words that you'd like to share before we wrap up?
You like going to the retreat not only like had an impact on myself, but also the people around me, because you bring stuff back. Like my roommate, she like I've taught her everything. Like it's not just for yourself, I feel like it's also for like other people. I just want to add that in because it's not only changed my life, but the people around me.
Absolutely, the ripple effect. Thank you so much for saying that, because I think there's so much truth to that. And for those of us who are on this journey, we are committed to healing. We're committed to showing up in our most aligned timeline. It does have a ripple effect on the people closest to us. And let's be real, the people closest to us can be our biggest triggers. Our families can be our biggest sources of love and also our biggest sources of pain. So for them to receive the benefits from us working on our journey, I think is hugely valuable. And I think that will speak to a lot of people. So thank you again so much, Abigail, and everyone watching. Thank you so much. Please give her some love down below in the comments if you're watching this live. And I'm sure we'll be back with another one of these again. Thank you so much for watching.